We're so happy to be joined by SwipeClock in a webinar to discuss how background screening improves the quality of hire. We'll also explore how Verified First integration on SwipeClock's comprehensive platform can benefit your organization. Now, before we dive in today, we have just a few quick housekeeping items. As a reminder, this session is being recorded and we'll be sending out a copy of that recording to all of you after the webinar. With that, we encourage you to share this recording with any team members or colleagues that you feel may benefit from what we'll be discussing today. Also, if there are any questions as we go along, there is a Q&A panel. Feel free to jump in and pose those to us at any point using the question functionality in your panel, and we'll try to get to those questions as we can. And we will be allocating some time after the conclusion of today's webinar for an open FAQ as well. Thanks again for joining us today. We're glad you can all be here with us. I'd love to take this time and just introduce the team we have here today. My name is Corey, and I help to manage our partner relationships here at Verified First. With me, I have Carol from SwipeClock. Carol, good afternoon. How are you doing today?
Good afternoon, doing well.
Wonderful, wonderful. I know you're over there in the nice state of North Carolina, and a bit cooler than we are here in Boise, Idaho, I'm sure.
Yep, not entirely cool, but certainly cooler. So I've been an account manager with ApplicantStack for 7 years now, and prior to that, I have a background in corporate recruiting, and before that, even in HR as well. So I'm certainly familiar with background checks, and I'm excited to be here today.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Carol. And yeah, sounds like you are definitely experienced in the space. So glad to have you on and providing some commentary on today's webinar. So before we jump in, I just want to take a few minutes to talk a little bit more about SwipeClock and Verified First and really why we came together with our partnership. And at the core of that, we really wanted to be able to provide the easiest, most efficient way to be able to effectively screen employees, all within SwipeClock's robust platform, ApplicantStack. And with a few simple clicks, you can order robust background and drug screens on any candidates that you have, and the report results are available on the candidate page without ever having to leave the platform. So we want to be able to add that value for both of our mutual clients when it comes to either employees or volunteers that you may be screening. Now, to start off today's conversation, I want to talk about why bad things happen to good people. Now, according to the latest aptitude research study, about 39% of organizations are not screening every candidate for roles at their company. Bad things can really happen to people who have good intentions all the time, right? And when we think about why that is, it can sometimes come back down to lack of knowledge or maybe even awareness. We really truly believe that employers attempt to hire people with the best of intentions, and we want to trust that candidates are being honest. But sometimes it doesn't always work out that way. And really now more than ever, organizations' guidelines continue to evolve, right? Think of yourselves and in your positions in your company over the past year. Requirements are shifting, and it's really creating this need to conduct thorough background checks on candidates. Not only do you want to keep a safe environment for your employees, but also avoid potential legal challenges. So definitely make sure you meet internally to ensure your screening policies are up to date and that you have a consistent company-wide policy in place. In other words, you aren't simply screening certain individuals just because you have this hunch or gut feeling about them. And Carol, as we move through this, any commentary, any experience you have or what you've seen with clients?
Yeah, so you had mentioned consistency, and that's obviously very important in the recruiting and HR realm. And I've got a little bit of a story to share a little bit later, but just from a recruiting standpoint, it's challenging when you have a person you think you're going to hire and then have their background check come back, and unfortunately it has something on that record, to have to go back and restart that process. It can be very, very frustrating and time consuming, but it is something obviously that needs to be done and is worthwhile doing as long as you're doing that in a consistent fashion.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Great point, Carol. So as we move on to our next section in the presentation here, I really want to get the feedback here from the audience on what you think on this particular question. So I'm going to go ahead and launch a live poll that you'll see show up here on your screen. How many U.S. drivers are arrested for driving under the influence of alcohol or narcotics annually? A, less than 50,000. B, 100,000, C, 200,000, or D, more than 700,000. So I'll give you a quick couple of moments here so that you can go ahead and answer what you think is the best fit. Carol, any guesses, any thoughts?
I see a lot of questionable driving behavior out there, so I'm going to go with the last option.
Okay, wonderful. Well, let's go ahead and share those results with everybody. Let's see how intuitive our group is today. So looks like we've got some spread across less than 50,000, a couple at 100,000, majority of our audience selecting 200,000, and then about 10% with you, Carol, on that more than 700,000. So let's go ahead and transition and see what the reality of that is. So the reality now behind it. So Carol, you were right.
Yay.
1 million US drivers are arrested annually for driving under the influence of alcohol or narcotics. Now, I know when I first saw this, I was shocked, right? But if we think about this in terms of an offense, something like this can happen pre-hire or post-hire at any point in time. And this goes back to one of the reasons why organizations like to protect themselves um, and implement an ongoing screening policy. You know, I really like to encourage companies to talk internally, as I mentioned, to put this process in place so they can capture things like this, you know, because we can't always just rely on employees to come forward when a new offense like this happens. So when I think about this in the context of background screening, right, two searches that come to mind that can assist with catching something like this would either be a motor vehicle record search or the other option being drug testing. You know, and we work with multiple vendors to ensure you have multiple panels that you can run to really keep your workplace safe. In addition to just this kind of offense, you know, and driver's record checks and background screening, there are so many other searches that you can perform to complement your current background screening process. Some others that come to mind include sex offender searches, you know, credit checks to determine financial responsibility, county criminal searches, which reveal criminal convictions as well as misdemeanor convictions. And you know, we have over 100 different searches that we can offer. It would be a little long-winded to list them all out during our webinar, but just so that you can understand, we work with our clients based on their needs as well as doing risk assessments to find out what are those key searches that we want to be implementing and limiting risk as much as possible. We also understand, you know, every employer has unique needs and use cases. So this is why we offer our comprehensive um, consulting services to meet your individual needs. Now let's go ahead and talk about technology for a minute within this space. Here's another question that we always love to ask as well to our audiences, and it's a part of a year-long study that we're conducting to better understand technology trends over the last or over the last year and continuing on into this next year. You know, we all know a lot has changed, right? Including organizational needs, individuals being remote, needing to find technology solutions that helps bridge the gap between a hybrid or fully remote workspace. And so we'd really be interested on hearing from everyone on this question as to what you think or what plans that you know your company is looking to replace in the next maybe 6 months, even a year. So I'll go ahead and launch that poll for everyone so they can submit their answers. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close the poll now and see the results of the audience today. It's always interesting to see, depending on the webinar, what the results look like here. So very interesting data. So about 14% of those in the line are looking to replace their background screening provider, and then 86% with no replacement. So this is actually a trend we're starting to see, is that a lot aren't looking to replace their current technology. Maybe you did so earlier on in the year or late last year when a lot more of the changes were going into place. So it's definitely great to see that and be able to share with the audience today what others are looking at within trends in the tech space. All right. So now let's get into a little bit more about how screening impacts your organization. According to a study performed by Aptitude Research, there are 3 unique ways screening impacts your organization. The first being organizations using background screening are 2 times more likely to improve the quality of hire. I think this, really ties into the fact that you want to have the best of the best, right? So you want to ensure that the candidate you select is not only the right one, but they're also honest when it comes to sharing specific details. And this is a great way where background checks can help. And it's huge when it comes to providing that insight and confirming the information that the applicant shares with you is actually accurate. Carol, I want to pause here for a moment, and any customer experiences or even personal experiences that you can share relating back to quality of hire?
Sure. So I have a personal experience to share, and mentioned a little bit earlier, it's never fun to have to start your hiring process over again. But I was working for a company and was responsible for running background checks, and we ran them at the point of hire. And once a year thereafter, just given the nature of the work, we had companies driving on company time. So it's something that we took very seriously. And we had an individual who got into multiple car accidents during employment, and it turned into workers' comp claim after workers' comp claim. And so eventually we got to the point where, running background checks, we saw this going on. We had to part ways with that particular individual. So for me, it was obviously critical to have that available, and just to protect the organization. And also, thankfully, to my knowledge, there was nobody innocent that was hurt during this ongoing process. So to me, it's very critical to run this as part of your process.
Yeah, absolutely, Carol. That's a great example. And another reason why rescreening too is so key for those on the line. If you are currently background screening, are you rescreening as well? And what does that process looks like? Is it annually? Is it every few years? That's something you definitely want to make sure, if you're not doing, you start incorporating into your business practices, because as we said, there are things that can happen, post hire that you may not otherwise know about. And just a part of that ongoing step to keeping your other employees as well as your brand safe and even your customers as well. I'd love to take this to a one step further. I think we had maybe mentioned earlier a little bit on the cost of hire or obviously realizing, there's that expense piece when it comes to bringing on a new hire. And we have some data. I was reading an article the other day, and let's just say, the new hire you bring on ends up being not a good fit for your company, for one reason or another. According to SHRM, it costs a company on average of about 6 to 9 months of an employee's salary to find a replacement when a wrong hiring decision is made. And when you think about that, let's take a moment and break that down into some real numbers. So for an employee making about $60,000 a year, that comes out to be anywhere between 30 to 45,000 in recruiting, onboarding, training costs. You start to think about all the elements that are brought in when you have to bring another individual in for that role. So the impact of making a wrong hiring decision can be pretty significant, going beyond, maybe some of just the obvious reasons. Another great point here is organizations using background screening are also 3 times more likely to improve time to fill. I think there's often this misconception out there that adding background screening may slow down the hiring process, right? But in reality, it helps to eliminate a lot of the guesswork so hiring managers can really leverage background checks to hire with confidence and in turn actually shorten the time to recruit. This can help when it comes to obviously competing for talent. That is huge right now, with the amount of job openings right now and those also seeking work, and really preventing those candidates from potentially accepting another offer from another organization, which again, like I said, is something we're seeing more and more common, especially in today's workplace. Lastly, background screening is also 2 times more likely to improve recruiter satisfaction. The more feedback we receive, the more we know that hiring managers or recruiters like yourselves are having to do a lot more with a lot resources, right? So there's this strong need to streamline this process so you can get a lot more done throughout the day and maybe focus on elements that are more important, like the candidate experience, the employee experience. And this is something that SwipeClock and Verified First took into consideration when we chose to partner and allow background checks to be requested out of ApplicantStack. Now let's go ahead and change gears a little bit more. I'm sure you've all been waiting. All right, well, what does it actually look like, right? How easy and intuitive is it actually to use within ApplicantStack's platform? So I'm going to transition and actually show you a live demonstration of what that looks like today. So I'll go ahead and transition my screen over here and make sure everyone can see. Okay, so you should be seeing now the Chrome Web Store on your screen. This is one of the stores that you can go into to download our integration. What we have is actually a browser extension that integrates directly with SwipeClock. It's very simple to get started. We aren't leveraging any API integrations, which really makes it easy for clients to, as yourselves, to implement our integrations and start using right away. And the great thing is there's also no technical resources needed from your end. So there's no 4 to 6 week long project. It's really as simple as downloading an app for your browser. And we leverage this browser extension to be compatible with all the browsers out there, such as Chrome, Safari, Firefox, Microsoft Edge, you name it, whatever you use, we are integrated with. So to get started, you'll just want to go over, as I mentioned, and head to the web store of your choice. You'll go ahead and type in Verified First, and you'll see we come up here as the first listing. Now I'll go ahead and go through the process of adding this to my Chrome web browser. As you can see, it's really just as simple as adding it on here, almost like you're downloading an app from your phone or a smart device as you normally would. So real easy process here. Now what I'm going to show is shifting over into ApplicantStack's environment and actually show you how that will appear on one of our candidates. So on the screen, you probably recognize this system here. This is, again, ApplicantStack's platform. What I'll do is I'll go ahead and hop into one of our candidates that we have here. And you can see here right now that the verified first extension isn't showing up yet, just yet. What I do need to do is go ahead and give that extension permissions before I can go ahead and allow that content to be able to pull in from there. So I'm just going to go ahead and give that permissions and refresh the screen here. Oops. There it is. It was just hanging out on a different screen there. So let me go ahead and bring that back up. All right, so you'll see here now the buttons incorporated. It's on ApplicantStack's platform, so very easy to get up and go and start screening. Now that I've downloaded the extension, I can go ahead and begin screening my candidate. So I'll click on this. Now, if you're new to Verified First in our extension, you will go ahead and click the sign up button. This is how you'll get in touch with our team to just set up your account with those particular searches that you want to run within ApplicantStack on your employees. If you are an existing user, you will be able to log in for your first time, and then after that, it'll automatically keep you logged in. Apologize for that going back and forth. So you'll simply log in with your username and password here. This is going to be specific to your account with Verified First. And what you'll see here is a little sidebar pops out for us to see the Verified First extension. So as you can see, you're not having to navigate between multiple platforms, multiple web browsers. It's all within this one system. Now, let's say I was already signed in. I can go ahead and click the Place Order button. And what that will do is bring up a screen on the right-hand side that shows the order for our candidate here today, who is Hank Mess. For these options, you do have the ability to select a la carte. As you can see here, just a viewpoint of some of the hundreds of searches that I had mentioned earlier. But what we like to do in front during the onboarding process is also get you set up with screening packages that are customized to your organization. And these can be based around specific positions or roles or just packages that you feel that you'd be running most often. For instance, I'll click a sample here for our demo today. And you can see with this one, it just populates out the Social Security address trace there for us. So that's locked in and a package that I can run on this candidate. What you'll also see down here, which is great in eliminating that time to hire and also eliminating double entry of data, is this data automatically pulls over from the ApplicantStack platform in the relevant fields. You as the hiring manager or recruiter, all you need to do if there is a middle name or if we did not collect one or they don't have one is fill in this quick drop down button. As you can see, we have their email and phone number. And what you do from here is simply click the Send Invite button. Now, this invite has been sent quite a bit on Hank Mess as he is our test candidate. But what's great about the platform is it's smart enough to know if an order has already been run on this particular candidate. So it'll inform you of that and prompt you And with this test candidate, we'll go ahead and click next. You do have the ability to auto order the background screen once the candidate completes the disclosure and authorization forms that we'll be sending to them. This is typically best practice to be able to do that. That way you're not having to review all those forms and adding extra time to the process. So we can initiate it as soon as we get those completed forms back from your candidate. Now you see here just confirming the ways that I can send this invitation out. We do support both email and phone number if they have a cell phone number that we can text it to them as well. You'll see that this is a smart box and indicates that this is actually not a cell phone number, so it'll avoid sending out any type of communication just to a landline. So if you do have an actual phone number that is available to receive text messages, this will be highlighted in green with a check mark. Now for our demo today, I'm going to go ahead and uncheck that option and proceed with just the email invite out to our candidate, Hank Mess. And this is a part of our compliance with keeping you compliant when you're running your background screening. This is just certifying that you are sending these background screening requests and these authorization forms for the purposes of employment, not for any other reason, and that written disclosures will be provided to the candidate. So I'll simply click send there. And what you'll see is a couple of things happen on the screen here. So you'll see now the status has been updated to waiting on applicant. I have a few options here as far as being able to resend that invite if for some reason they accidentally deleted it. I can withdraw it if we decide to move on with another candidate. But this is a great viewpoint because it always gives you a bird's eye view of where they're at in the process. Now, let's say you're just operating within the ApplicantStack's platform and you're not clicked into the browser extension. What's great about our button is that it's dynamic as well. So as you can see here, this also updated to a status of waiting on applicant. So you don't always have to jump into the extension to see where we're at in the process with this particular candidate. I also want to show you if you are an organization that tends to be doing a lot of background screening, we have a couple different ways to manage a dashboard and see where your candidates or applicants are within the process. So as you can see here, we can be waiting on the applicant. We can have a partially complete order. We also have the ability to see where those applicants are at in the pipeline and see if there's maybe any type of areas that we need to do some reviewing on or researching on before they can move forward to the next process. What I'll click into here is just to show you what a completed background check will look like. So we'll go in here and search for our test candidate, and you'll see Hank Mess. And so once the report comes back as complete and the candidate fills out all their necessary information to be able to run that report, we're able to actually see that within Verified First as well. From this viewpoint, as well as if you were to search another candidate. So let me pull up another Hank Mess as an example. So as you can see here on this candidate, we have the report complete. We're able to go in and click on the report as it's ready for us to review. And what you can see here is not only do we give a clear status on the employee, but we actually provide the full background screening report. So you can make the best decision on whether you want to move forward with this person or move forward with other candidates. If you do any type of drug screening, it will all appear in this report as well for you to have on file and make the best hiring decision for your company. Within our extension, you also have the ability to approve and move forward with the candidate if everything comes back according to your company policy on the background screening report. And you also have the option to take pre-adverse action if there was something that came back on the report that won't be a good fit for your company. You have the ability to send that through Verified First via email notice for free, or also sending a print notice or mail notice as well, which has an additional cost associated with it. But it's all about keeping in compliance with those steps and informing your candidates where they're at on the process and giving them the opportunity to appeal any decisions or information that we may have found on the background screening report. So really as simple as that from the user standpoint to initiate and see the completed reports with an ApplicantStack. Carol, I know you've seen this integration before. I think it's really a great value add to your audience there as they are going throughout their hiring process and vetting out these candidates more.
Sure. And having everything in one place certainly helps too.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely. So let's go ahead and transition back to our presentation for today. And let's open it up to the audience for a little bit of an FAQ session. And just before we head into that, though, I do want to put an emphasis, really on background screening and what we're seeing as trends into this next year. That same research group, you're going to hear Aptitude Research a lot because there's a great third-party company that's very prevalent in the HR and talent acquisition space. But according to them, about 40% of companies are increasing their headcount this year. And about 1 in 3 of those don't have the right data to make good hiring decisions, really making background screening this critical part of the talent acquisition process. And this is also really having a significant impact on the candidate experience, right? As we think and we talked about, Carol, most employers run background checks at the same time a hiring decision is being made, right? So this is a critical process where, inaccurate data or delays can really result in the loss of candidates. Most importantly, if there's anything to take away from today's session, background screening shouldn't just be a box you check to say you did it. It is really a critical component of a talent acquisition strategy. And what we found is that organizations who invest in strategic background screening solutions are shown to significantly improve the candidate and retention of quality employees. Now, for anyone interested in talking to Verify First around your current process or any interest in the services that we offer, we'd be happy to schedule a call with you. There's an email on the screen that you can reach out to, and we're happy to help whether you have general questions or you would like to review your current screening process, as well as SwipeClock's information on the screen below if you'd like to get in touch with them for any of their services or any follow-up questions. Now with that, we'll go ahead and transition to our Q&A session. It's always fun to see the engagement from our audience, so feel free to put any questions within the panel there on your right-hand side so we can get some of those answered for you today. Okay, perfect. So it looks like we had a question come in. This is always a great one that we get. What does pricing look like for background screening? So great question. So pricing is really going to be customized per organization. And as I mentioned earlier, we really have over 100 different background searches, so it's hard to throw a specific price out there. I will say we are extremely competitive with us being the fastest growing background screening company in the US, and the integration is 100% free. So I would encourage you, if you are exploring some different background screening options, reach out to us. Let's look at the certain services you're interested in and get a better understanding of your current process. So once we have that initial conversation, we can provide you with a customized quote based off of that. Let's see, we had another question come in. Is this something that I could use to hire only 1 or 2 people in a year? Is it cost effective at that point? Really great question. It is a system that you can utilize if you only make 1 or 2 hirings in a year. However, with our solution, it's really best for those that are going to be doing continuing hiring on a regular basis throughout the year, just because of the ease and the different features we have on creating those packages so you can run those reports more specifically. But we are able to help if you do have, some hiring needs without the year. There are, no minimums, which is great. So we work with employers of all sizes. So feel free to reach out to us if that's something you are interested in. Okay, great. We're having some more questions come in here about how long on average does it take to get the report information back? Really good question here. So a lot of our searches that we conduct with Verified First come back almost immediately to within a few hours or same day. You will have some varying variances in that. Oftentimes when you're including any type of reference check or employment verification. That's when our compliance team needs to reach out and actually verify the info with an individual. So in those cases, it can take, up to a few days just because we're reaching out by phone and email to try to get in contact and verify that data. But otherwise, most screens come back instantaneously or same day. So great question there. What are the, let's see, next one here. So what are the typical kinds of companies that would use this kind of service? Great question. All industries, no matter who you hire for, if you're hiring someone and bringing them onto your company, you should be background screening for every role. As some of the top industries that we do help is obviously healthcare, financial services, retail as well are a lot that we see in this space. But really, we service any industry and help them with their needs for background screening. And let's see, just got another one in here. So if I wanted to get the Verified First integration set up, what steps would I take? So we went through the process live here today. It's really as simple as going to that Chrome store, Firefox store of your choice and download the extension. The only other piece to that is just getting your account set up with Verified First. That's typically a process once you click that sign up form and fill out your information that we can go ahead and assist you with in just a few days to get you up and running with screening. So really great question. And like I said, we're not looking at timelines of anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks. We can really get you up and screening for your needs as soon as possible. And the last question that we have before we close out today's presentation is it recorded? If so, can it be sent to the emails or to the attendees via email? Absolutely. Today's session is being recorded, and we will send this to everyone that registered for today's webinar so that you can review and share with those at your organization that you may feel would be interested in this content as well. So with that, we'll go ahead and end today's presentation. So happy you were able to join us live. Carol, thank you so much for joining us as well, and having your valuable input into the integration. We appreciate everyone taking the time out today. And again, feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions.